I don't believe people are bad people. They may be doing bad actions, but they're not inherently bad. Okay, I'm not going to say there's not some exceptions like Hitler or Stalin, but even then it gets like really blurry between them being a bad person or just like being completely mentally ill and like unstable. I'm not getting into it. Yes, we could put them in a category of bad people. But the people that you interact with on a daily basis, whether that's your family, your friends, your clients, your employees, they may be doing bad actions, but they are in no way a bad person. So whenever someone does a bad action, we want to understand the reason as to why they are doing this action. Because if people are inherently good, then they would want to do good things. No, right? So I believe that bad actions come from one of two places. Okay. Either super common that a lot of people know already, an emotional reason, right? So as the saying goes, hurt people, right? Or if you know, like a kid in school who's like bullied many times, right? They have like a lot of unstableness at home, or there's something else going on in their lives that we don't know about. Or even as an adult bullies, adults, like not behaving in the ways that they should, adults doing bad actions, anything from stealing to all the glory stuff that I'm not going to get into now, many times comes from emotional issues. Now, I am not at all saying this is an excuse, and I am not at all saying that it is right, but it's about understanding why people are doing it. But we're not going to go deep into the emotional issue. There's enough people that talk about emotions. I'd like to cover a different reason as to why sometimes people take bad actions or do bad things. Is because of weak cognitive functions. You see, thinking is not one big thing. Thinking is made up of 28 parts called cognitive functions, 28 thinking skills. Now, naturally, we all have stronger ones and weaker ones, but those weaker ones are making it a challenge for you to do certain things or causing you to behave in ways that look bad, right? So if someone is always running late, some people might see that as a complete disrespect, and it's really not, it's just like not right. And I am not saying that people shouldn't be on time. I'm like a stickler for it, and like you got to be in time if you're going to talk to me. But I also understand that if a person is not on time, especially if it happens often, it's usually because of a weak cognitive function. One of the thinking skills related to being on time is weak. Now, it could be simply the concept of understanding time is weak. That could be one. It could be their lack of ability of like hypothetical thinking of what's going to happen if and then. Like if I do load one more laundry, then I'm going to be late for the meeting. It doesn't make a difference what it is. And most definitely not saying to just excuse them and let people stay like this at all. We want to improve our cognitive function so we no longer have these bad experiences and do these so-called bad actions. But on a receiving end of a bad action, you want to be understanding of people. So anytime a person does a bad action, ask yourself, what is causing this person to behave this way? Is it because of an emotional reason, or is it because of a cognitive reason? And very possibly it can be both, because they are highly related. Now, here's the thing. Emotional reasons are much easier to see. For one, society has, thank God, brought us to a place where emotional issues has become more of a norm. People understand mental illnesses and mental issues, and people are more understanding of like trauma and things like that. And that's amazing. Cognitive functions have not yet get that popularity. They're on their way. It's getting more, but it is not there yet. So people aren't as familiar with cognitive functions. So it may be a little bit more challenging for you to be able to see it. So I've got two resources for you to be able to get better at understanding what the 28 cognitive functions are. One is just a video right here on YouTube. I'm going to link it right below, where we just go through all the 28 cognitive functions and I just explain how it shows up in your life. The second one is the Cognitive Functions Guide. I'm also going to link that right here below. And that same thing, walks through the 28 cognitive functions, but it also gives you practical ways how to improve every single one of them. So you've grabbed the one that works best for you right now in the stage that you're at. Now, here's the thing. Even if you aren't completely familiar with all the 28 cognitive functions and you don't have them memorized down pat, don't worry. You can still be understanding of other people. By you understanding that it's either an emotional issue or a weak thinking skill, you already created a space of not having to be mad at them and being able to open up a conversation to be able to figure out what you need to do in this place. So if there's, let's say you find yourself having a lot of misunderstanding with your spouse, okay? And you think that it's coming from a cognitive function because it's happening over and over and over again, right? Like maybe you know of some emotional issues that they've had in the past, or I hope you do if you're married to them, but you don't think that this is what's causing them to have some miscommunication, although it could be. It's very possible that trauma and things like that is affecting miscommunication. But let's say now you believe that you think it's a weak cognitive function. Probably, my guess is that weak cognitive function might be labeling, considering another perspective, or giving a thoughtful response. That's very possible. Now, it also could be another one. Like I recently did a video about like holding two pieces of information, right? And that too was like I shared that story about a guy where he wasn't having good communication with his wife. And that was because of a completely different cognitive function, was because of holding two or more pieces of information at once. So really it could be any of the 28 cognitive function. But here's the thing, even if you don't know yet which one of the 28 cognitive functions are, like that this person is struggling with, that it is causing them to behave this way, you can still have a conversation with your spouse about this fact that there's a lot of miscommunication and a lot of misunderstanding between each other. And in this way, instead of getting angry that like, oh, this happened again, and there's another set of miscommunication going on here, and it just made us lose more money or waste more time or like forget about this massive event or whatever happened, you take the time to create a solution, to figure out what we are going to do about this in the future to prevent it from happening. And that way you are working together with your brain, with the other person's brain, and not against it. Okay. Obviously, like I said, this is not solving the problem of the core issue. You are just creating a solution to what to do about the situation. The best way would be to be able to help the other person improve the cognitive function. Now, you can't like improve every person's cognitive function on the street. You are not in the position to, and I do not recommend you to do that. First of all, it takes time. Second of all, it's just not your place, right? Like you're not here to go fixing everyone, but people that you do have influence over. So whether that is your family, your clients, even your employees, most definitely you have a lot of influence over them, right? And you want their lives to get better, and it is affecting you and it is affecting them. And you can improve your cognitive functions, help them improve their cognitive functions, give them the cognitive function assessment, help them watch a video, give them the cognitive functions guide, do whatever you need to do to help them improve those cognitive functions. So that way these things will no longer be an issue. Make sense? Good. And before we turn off here, I have one more thing. I find that people, when it comes to making mistakes with themselves, when they don't call it bad actions because it's just a mistake. But people tend to be on one of two, like they approach it one of two ways. Either they're super, super hard on themselves. They're like, oh my God, I made this mistake. Look at me, look what I'm doing. Da-da-da. And they're just really hard on themselves. Or they're like, oh, it's just a mistake. And they excuse it as just a mistake. But then when somebody else does it, then it's like they get really mad that somebody else just did it. Now, none of those are the best approach. Personally, I like to use mistakes as an understanding as to why like this is happening, like what's going on here. And so what do? You simply ask yourself the question, what cognitive function did I not use that caused this to happen? Okay. Now, once again, you have to be more familiar with the 28 cognitive functions. So yes, if you haven't watched a video, if you haven't grabbed the guide, please go and do that as soon as you're done watching this. But once you understand what the 28 cognitive functions are, then instead of beating yourself up for making a mistake, or instead of just letting it go because you made a mistake, you actually can solve that issue. So I'll give you an example, personal example. So working with a coach with some like marketing things, and just like helping me with different things in the business. And there was like a big chunk of it that like just wasn't working. A lot of the emails like weren't getting the response that we wanted. It just wasn't working really well. And he's like, hey, send me the emails, let me go through them and let me see like what's going on here, and we'll be able to figure it out together. He looks through them and he's like, you know what the issue is? There's just like a ton of typos. That's it. Like the emails are really good. There's just a ton of typos. And like people think that it's like people that these emails are coming from like someone from a different country or like VAs who like don't know English very well. So that's why you're not getting the response. They want to speak to people directly like you. And I was like, hey, that comes from the cognitive function of being precise. All I need to do is improve that cognitive function of being precise. And then this will no longer be an issue for me. So I wasn't mad. I wasn't beating myself up. I wasn't like, oh my God, like or any of it. It was just like, it comes from the cognitive function of being precise. I know I need to work on that. And then it will become a whole lot better. And I honestly know that as soon as I started thinking about it, I was like, there's other places in my life where this with cognitive function is showing up. So I better make sure to crack down on it. So you are going to now start by understanding what the 20 cognitive functions are. Watch the video below, grab your essential guide to cognitive functions. And then whenever anyone makes a mistake, so whether that's you or someone else around you, even your child, your client, ask yourself, what is causing this person to behave this way? Is it an emotional reason? Is it a cognitive reason? And what are we going to do about it? Have an awesome rest of your day, and cheers to peak brain performance.